Mark Rogers TV back with you as we continue our analysis of the NFL Draft. We picked it up with the fourth round here. For the first three rounds, we had Brent Carlstrom with us, our draft guru, but we go it alone for rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to go through the round. I'm going to pick out those guys that I saw extensively in college. I saw about 90% of these guys in college, especially those guys, of course, that played in BCS conferences, being a college football guy. But I'm going to highlight those guys that I saw extensively and have something to say. So we'll start with the fourth round, and we go to pick 103 to the Atlanta Falcons, and they stay in the region to running back Devonta Freeman of Florida State, a kid who played from his freshman year on through a senior season at Florida State, despite a crowded backfield. So it was a situation we know in 2013 where the Seminoles also had Carlos Williams, and they also had James Wilder. So that's a situation where the Seminoles' backfield has always been crowded, and certainly during the tenure of Devonta Freeman. So as a freshman, he didn't start, but because of nagging injuries to other players, other guys getting beat up, and also because of his own determination and play in practice, he earned a starting spot for the last 5 or 6 games of his freshman season and ran for over 500 yards, 8 touchdowns, and caught 15 passes out of the backfield. It was pretty much the same story as a sophomore and junior. Crowded backfield, a lot of guys share carries, but Freeman would emerge season after season as a freshman, sophomore, and junior as the starter the back half of the season with his superior play, and again, with his grit and determination. This is one determined guy. He's not just a fancy speed guy. He's got exceptional burst, but he also runs between the tackles. It's not his forte. He's not a wrecking ball, but he's got strong lower body strength, and he will run hard for you between the tackles. Now, he's not the classic guy between the tackles, but he will run hard. Going into his senior season in Tallahassee, now Devonta Freeman was finally the guy. Still a crowded backfield again with Williams and Wilder, but Freeman was certainly the guy. Was all ACC in 2013, becoming the first Florida State back since Warrick Dunn of Tampa Bay fame in 1996 to rush for over 1,000 yards in a season. We know what the talent's like in Tallahassee, even during that downtime at the end of Bobby Bowden's tenure. Crowded backfields all the time. The minuses on Devonta Freeman would be nagging back injuries. So he's not been able to consistently all the time stay on the field, and he's not been the guy that has had to carry the load, again, because of the abundance of talent at Florida State. He did catch 39 passes this past season to his credit, or also had a 39 reception season, actually 22 in this last season at Florida State. Of course, the Seminoles winning the national championship, and Devonta Freeman with 1,000 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns had a large part in that, and scored a touchdown against Auburn in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena for the championship game. Let's move down to San Francisco's pick at 106, Bruce Ellington, an interesting prospect out of South Carolina. He's a basketball guy, primarily a basketball player until pretty much his senior season at South Carolina. As recently as 2011, Bruce Ellington didn't play football. Then he came on in 2012 and 2013, of course, so he is not polished. He's not a polished receiver. He's not like Jared Abbrederis at Wisconsin, who's a very, very savvy receiver, or the LSU twins, Beckham and Landry, polished receivers, not Bruce Ellington. He did lead the team in receptions this past season with 49, 775 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He really impressed me in the Capital One Bowl against Wisconsin. He made 2 spectacular catches in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, South Carolina would have lost that game to Wisconsin. It was a close one in the last 5 minutes. And again, on 3rd and long on 2 different occasions, he made huge, remarkable plays. Just one in particular was amazing, where he tipped the ball to himself while he was engaged with the defender, one-handed it, tipped it to himself, actually directed the ball exactly where he needed it to go to get it past the defender and catch it with the other hand. It was a remarkable play out of Bruce Ellington. Not ideal size at 5'9", but of course, basketball player, he can jump. He's going to have to learn the pro game, going to have to learn how to refine his game, but in terms of competitiveness and athletic ability, he's off the charts. Bruce Ellington to the Niners at 106. Let's move down the board to a guy at Cincinnati, 111, Russell Bodine out of North Carolina. He's a center, classic center. strong, stout, the anchor of the offensive line. Very tough guy. Started 25 consecutive games for North Carolina over the past 2 seasons. Again, not an elite athlete by any stretch. That's why one of the reasons why he's playing center, and you can get away with it at center more than probably any other position on the field, even guard. If you're a bit short on agility and athletic ability, and that's Russell Bodine. I expect him to be a starting center in the NFL very soon and to be very consistent, very steady. Again, a tough grinder, a guy that's going to be there for you, stout, anchor, bench pressed 225 42 times. 42 times at the Combine in Indianapolis. Russell Bodine of North Carolina goes to the Bengals at 111. We drop down to the next pick. Tennessee at 112 takes DaQuan Jones out of Penn State, a defensive tackle who showed up at State College as an offensive lineman, switched to defensive lineman as a freshman, played a really strong defensive tackle position for the Nittany Lions, and then really had a much better season as a senior when he brought himself into the conversation as a pro prospect. 3 sacks this past year, 11.5 tackles for loss, actually dropped 15 pounds to get his agility where it needs to be for the pro game, dropped that 15 pounds entering his senior season, and weighs in at 6'4" and 322, is so versatile that he can both play in the 3-4 and the 4-3 at defensive tackle. He has shown the versatility in the 1 technique and the 2 technique. All right, let's go to the Giants selecting at pick 113 in the 4th round. Andre Williams out of Boston College, a guy that since his freshman season has lugged the football at BC and been the primary back. 500, 600-yard back until his senior season when he got healthy, stayed healthy, and was given the football time and time again out of this Boston College offense. 2,177 yards and 18 rushing touchdowns. Andre Williams becoming just the 16th back all-time in college football to gain 2,000 yards rushing in 1 season. Listen to this game against North Carolina State. 42 attempts, 339 yards. He rushed for over 200 yards 5 different times. Won the Doak Walker Award, almost won the Heisman Trophy despite playing for a marginal Boston College team. And the one thing he will not do for you is catch the football. He showed it at the Combine. There was a reason they didn't throw him the ball at Boston College. Number one, they were usually handing it to him. Secondly, they threw the ball downfield. Thirdly, he just showed at the Combine he does not have the ability to find the football, does not have good hands. He is not going to be catching passes from Eli Manning. He's going to be lining up in the backfield and taking the football off tackle. That's what Andre Williams does, and he wears down the defense. I don't know if he's going to have that opportunity to play to his strength in the NFL because of the diversity with the offense, especially a passing offense in New York with the Giants and quarterback Eli Manning. So this may not be the best of fits for him in regards to what he does best in the course during the course of a football game. But nevertheless, the Giants and Tom Coughlin, like the BC guy, Coughlin, of course, a former Boston College coach, liking Andre Williams with pick number 113. All right, we've got a number of guys that we've seen considerably. Aaron Colvin, 2-time Big 12 performer at cornerback for Oklahoma, goes to Jacksonville at 114. Shaq Evans, who was a marginal performer at UCLA, really put his best work into his senior season to get himself into this position where the Jets take him in the 4th round at pick 115, caught 133 passes for his career. That's a Devonta Adams season, but for Shaq Evans at UCLA, 133 for the career and 14 touchdowns. Keith McGill, we saw him considerably at cornerback for Utah, can really make the plays on the football, not necessarily the interceptions, but the pass breakups in 12. We saw it on tape during the draft, can really break on the football. Kadeem Carey, a star as a player at Arizona at running back, the leading rusher in the Pac-12 the past 2 seasons, consensus All-America, ran for 4,200 yards and 42 touchdowns in his career, but doesn't necessarily project as a very good NFL running back. He's got average speed, average size, really doesn't give you a plus size, speed, or strength factor in the running game, but the Bears take Kadeem Carey at 117. All right, next guy I'd really like to highlight here is Martavis Bryant. out of Clemson, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 118. We know that the Steelers have lost some very talented receivers in the past few years, and they pick up Martavis Bryant. The attention went to Sammy Watkins, and rightfully so. He was the productive guy. Martavis Bryant is an athlete, strictly an athlete, tall and lean, and he has elite speed and burst and athletic freak written all over him. 42 catches, 820 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He is the all-time Clemson record in yards per reception, record holder at 22.2 yards per catch. And a couple of the catches he made against Ohio State in the Orange Bowl for touchdowns to beat the Buckeyes were exceptional. One, he body turned it, twisted over the defender, reached off the wrong shoulder to catch the football in the end zone over the Ohio State defensive back. And in the other one, the ball was, again, thrown on the wrong side. Martavis Bryant tipped it to himself, caught it with the other hand, stayed in bounds, and navigated the defender all at the same time. This guy's an exceptional athlete. Only caught 19 passes in 2011 and 12, so much like Bruce Ellington at South Carolina, this guy is very inexperienced, but came on as a senior and matched the athleticism with the productivity to a large degree. His hands are iffy, and he doesn't have much experience. He's an athlete. All right, Anthony Hitchens out of Iowa, got to see him play considerable football at outside linebacker. He goes to the Cowboys at number 119. This guy is basically a safety. He looks like a safety on the field in terms of his body type and his athleticism and the way he plays in coverage. He plays more like a safety in coverage than a linebacker. He's not going to be exceptional in run support. I don't want to sell him short here because he will give you all that he has. But because of the limited size that he has, Anthony Hitchens, again, a great cover linebacker here who will give you everything he has in run support as well. Carl Bradford going to the Green Bay Packers at pick 121. I think that's a good value pick. Outside linebacker for Arizona State who consistently notched seasons of double-digit sacks and yards per loss on tackles. Exceptional guy there. We know what Kevin Norwood did at Alabama. Didn't light up the charts in regards to statistics. 38 catches, 7 touchdowns this past season. But he goes to Seattle because the Seahawks see what he does in the passing game when it counts. Makes the tough catches when it matters, and he seems to show up when the Crimson Tide need him most to make clutch receptions in big ball games. Kansas City selected DeAnthony Thomas out of Oregon at pick 124. The Chiefs have a recent history of these kind of players. Jamal Charles to a certain extent, and of course Dante Hall in the kick game about 10 years ago was lightning quick and very fun, electric to watch for a couple of years at Kansas City when he returned like 12 kicks and punts for touchdowns over the course of 5 or 6 seasons in Kansas City. DeAnthony Thomas is a guy that can run it, he can receive it, and he can help you in the special teams returning punts and most notably at Oregon, kickoffs. He will not stay on the field. He's not an every down back. He's a little guy. He doesn't like contact. He's going to protect himself. He's going to run in space. He loves space. He can plant his foot in the dirt and go. He can accelerate almost like nobody in college football. He's an exceptional talent, but he's not an every down player. He is the classic third down back. He is the classic situational type player because of that great speed, but the lack of size and bulk and strength. All right, let's move down further in the 4th round to pick 130. New England goes with James White out of Wisconsin. And much like the situation at Florida State, Wisconsin with talented running backs, Monte Ball, Melvin Gordon. So James White was never the man in Madison, but he carried the football a whole bunch. He was the Big Ten Offensive Freshman of the Year with over 1,000 yards rushing in 2010. But his next 2 seasons, actually, he was not as productive because of Ball being there, and then suddenly Melvin Gordon 2 years ago as well. So Wisconsin had a crowded backfield 2 seasons ago when they just annihilated Nebraska in the Big Ten championship game. So White had to share carries with 2 other backs. Then he emerged again statistically as a senior with almost 1,500 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns, but still Melvin Gordon was the leading rusher on this Badger team. James White, to a much lesser extent, is like DeAnthony Thomas. No, I'm not comparing them, but in terms of the speed game being more of his thing and therefore not being an every down back. DeAnthony Thomas doesn't like contact. James White is not immune to contact. He will mix it up. He will run his best. He will run hard. He will be competitive. He will give you what he has, but that's not his game either. Another guy that likes a gap. He's not going to move the pile. He's not going to leave a string of would-be tacklers down the field. James White goes to New England at pick 130. One other guy I'd like to touch upon is the next to last pick in the 4th round of the NFL draft, number 129, Atlanta Falcons take Prince Shembo, outside linebacker out of Notre Dame. The first couple times I saw this guy as a freshman and into his sophomore season, I thought Prince Shembo was going to be a star in college football, and he really just never continued to progress, didn't improve. And to say that is interesting because he's known for his competitiveness and for his edge and for his determination, but he didn't translate that into becoming a better football player. He's very competitive. He's got good athleticism. He's not a freak athlete. Good athleticism. It's not going to hold him back. He doesn't have limitations when it comes to his agility or athleticism to a large extent, but he's a guy that's going to basically be in his best fit as an outside linebacker on the left side in a 3-4. He's going to provide a pass rush, run support, doesn't mind mixing it up, can shed the blockers, and he's going to be able to cover tight ends and running backs as well. But to kind of emphasize my point about his lack of improvement, as a freshman, he didn't start any games, and he racked up 4.5 sacks and 5 tackles for loss as a freshman with playing all games but no starts. As a senior, 5.5 tackles for loss and 5.5 sacks. Basically the same productivity as a senior than as a freshman. Prince Shembo, Atlanta Falcons, pick 129. Our thoughts on the 4th round, highlighting a few players that we saw extensively in college football. Now we would love to hear from you. You can highlight these guys or maybe some other guys that were selected in the 4th round of the NFL draft. We had Tom Savage of Pitt. We had Logan Thomas, Virginia Tech quarterback, going to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are really going to have to coach him up. Ken Wisenhunt, who's a quarterback guru, is going to be put to the test with Logan Thomas. I would not have drafted him. I know he looks better than just about anybody standing in the pocket on an empty field in shorts, delivering the football. He's got a strong arm. He's an exceptional athlete. He's tough to bring down. He's a dual threat. 53 touchdowns career, 39 interceptions, 56% passer, just not accurate. I don't know that that can be taught, the accuracy element. He can be taught the game. He can have his skills refined a bit, but he doesn't drive the football. He doesn't bring it with conviction, and you have to wonder about a guy who came into college football as a tight end, wanted to stay at tight end, was basically told, you're our quarterback, so he doesn't necessarily want to be a quarterback. Maybe they should switch him to tight end. We'll see how the quarterback situation emerges and see if he progresses in that spot. Otherwise, Logan Thomas's future with the Cardinals or somebody could be a tight end. Again, we invite your comments on the 4th round of the NFL Draft right here on Mark Rogers TV.